Well, on the surface, she's a very ordinary person. She looks ordinary, and she doesn't ever make any effort to put on any facade or any social politeness or anything like that. But underneath, she's an extraordinary woman, you know, with such vision and such wisdom. And if only we could join in that vision, I think, you know, it would be a much better world.
Maria, will you bring your century into our century? These people are modern gardeners, as you were when you were young. In your day,
she is an extraordinary figure. She's a charismatic and formidable figure. And her very strengths, and my goodness, she has many of them, are also her weaknesses. And the biggest is that people see her at work and see her working what they think is her magic. And their immediate reaction, and I hear this said to me many times, their immediate reaction is to say, I can't do that. She is an artist in the classroom. And I think she's ahead of her time. And I think it's going to take many generations of teachers before the profession really understands what she is saying and the work that she is doing.
We understand there's some sort of rule about if a tree is that big round in circumference, how do you work out the diameter? Does anybody know?
I wish it were possible to have pieces of Dorothy scattered all over the world to act as yeast. Dorothy's work should be the fulcrum of education internationally.
She's so big, you can say. Her mind is big, her heart is big, and her idea is big, and she thinks children big. She believes in children, and she believes children have great ability and possibility. That's a very important thing, I think.
And then you've our families or husbands or other people who support our families are being unemployed, and if machines take over, then many of us will be unemployed, and then there'll be nobody to raise the family.
The problem with the shoes you have been making, they're really far too expensive for what we might call ordinary folk to buy. I mean, when you go around the shops and you look in the windows, a Blackley and Broadine shoe, you know, is a very special shoe.
I mean, it's the old question of people not recognised in their own country, it seems to me. Dorothy Heathcote is an outstanding educator and a world figure, and in time her work will be recognised, but it's the same sort of thing in England. People don't want to really recognise her work. It's very difficult to accept that way of teaching without starting to shift your own mindset on about what education really should be for.
Are you the sort that can keep on till the end, or do you like a bit of a push? Well, are you a pusher? You two try together. You give him a push, he'll help you think. And that is what education is about. It's education for self-direction.
Dorothy is a very powerful and influential and big person, but it is her gentility that has been at the heart of her teaching, and it is her gentility that is the powerful, profound attraction in the relationship there, and I think that message perhaps ought to go through.
I have one high skill which I've been gifted with, and I use it. It's something to do with a very high imaginative registration. I don't know what else to call it, but it must be just based in a nervous system. But the quality of images, the speed of images, is the gift, I think, which somehow flourishes in action. And it's got a peculiar, it's got peculiar layers to it. I've often tried to describe it to myself that if I talk about a tree, I am the tree, I'm seeing the tree, I'm in the tree, I mean like a bird would be in a tree. There's about 8 different trees simultaneously there. And I don't know where they come from. And I choose the one necessary if I'm teaching.
For more than 40 years, teachers have been watching Dorothy Heathcote at work and trying to follow her example. Those teachers were trying to sum up her success. As I know, that's not easy to do. I'm a television producer, not a teacher, but I'm one of many people who've filmed Dorothy over the years. And in this video, I too try to pin down pieces of Dorothy, trying to sum up her skills and her professional development over a lifetime of education. If you're not familiar with her work, then I hope this video will act as an introduction. If you are, then maybe it will fill in 1 or 2 gaps in a story that's taken Dorothy from Yorkshire mill girl weaving wartime parachutes to internationally renowned educational guru. She was born Dorothy Shutt in the West Yorkshire village of Steeton in 1926. She had a happy childhood, growing up in a succession of stone-built houses climbing the Pennine Hills above the mill. She was often in the company of older women.
My grandmother was the person they fetched, you know, fetch Sarah Ann. So a lot of my memories are listening, sitting between women in shawls, hearing about yellow dog being out and who's dying and this, that and the other, you know. And I think that must have had a big influence. You know, little children with big ears, you do sort of pick up a lot of myths, trying to make sense of them, because another good thing was people didn't bother explaining everything. And they never stopped talking about one thing or another. And it was usually, you know, the important things about who's expecting, who's dying, and whoever you had to go and see to. Things like babies born dead and left, you know, so that the midwife, you know, broke the news to the mother. Things like this. I'm sure it must have affected me some way, whether for good or ill.
Dorothy went to school in Steeton and, having failed her 11+, went to work in the mill. This mill, just up the hill from the school, is one of several in the vicinity where Dorothy worked as a weaver. But young Dorothy Shutt also read books. A lady of the mill owner's family encouraged her to visit her private library in the big house just outside the village. Towards the end of the war, Dorothy wove parachutes for the RAF. And then in 1945, at the age of 19, in a most unusual career move, her boss paid for her to go to Miss Esme Church's theatre school in Bradford. Here she was talent spotted by a friendly teacher who urged her to apply for a new post at Newcastle University. At the age of 24, with no formal academic qualifications, Dorothy applied for and got the job. She remained at Newcastle for the next 36 years, lecturing to graduate teachers at the university's School of Education.
Now, drama is about man's ability to identify. And it doesn't matter whether you're in the theatre or in your own sitting room. What you're really doing, if you're dramatising, is putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. Now, of course, there's much more to it than this very simple statement, but basically speaking, this is all it is. Man's gift, with which we seem to be born, of just putting ourselves instantly into somebody else's shoes and having a sort of total picture of how it must feel to be feeling like that person right now. Now, we haven't as yet done very much about harnessing this to the education of our children, but everybody uses this. We don't know how young they are when they begin to use this, but it's just about time, I feel, that we began to say to ourselves, can we use this in the classroom situation?
She was always critical of the academic establishment. Her experience as a three-loom weaver helped form her teaching philosophy.
It really has affected the way I look at the privilege of not being in that mill or that mine or wherever, that you're ruled by the machine. Even as soon as I went to theatre school, I realised what a privilege. You're not ruled by what my granny called whew, the buzzer, because you didn't take time off, you know, to see the overlooker. Now, that seriously affects me. You know, it's the sort of thing where a student would say, I'm hard up, and I would say, are you still smoking? You ain't hard up, mate. You don't know what it's like to be hard up till you stop smoking and you don't have half a pint at lunchtime. Then you might know, and you don't buy a sandwich. So in that sense, I really didn't fit into the academic world in one sense, because there was this little hard line that I still draw.
She even managed to base herself away from the main School of Education building in her latter years at number 42 North Road.
I didn't like either the fact that the rooms never changed. The tables and the chairs were put back exactly by the cleaning ladies as they were found. And when I walked through, I would think, well, nothing ever happens here. You know, they all fold up like praying mantises and sit down. Now, there's something wrong with a learning situation if everybody looks like they're going to watch a movie.
I'm here. I'm alive.
Dorothy changed all that. And videos made over the years by Newcastle University help us to see how she put drama into the classroom.
You will survive if, and I will put this proposition to you.
But you just survive.
Listen to the proposition.
You're a thug. You're not a man.
Listen to the proposition.
You do what you're told. You're
Come
worse
on,
than
sir,
us.
you have another appointment.
At least we've got a...
Do you wish to survive or do you not?
I can sense emotion in your voice.
You can sense it, you can feel it.
I know
You can see it.
Why is that?
You've got no choice. You're told what to do. You can't do anything.
You have to stand on the pedestal.
You're
to
not
make
a
yourself
man.
higher.
You're a boy.
This is a GCSE class studying Pilgrim's Progress. Dorothy Heathcote has been brought in to help make John Bunyan's text more accessible to late 20th century teenagers. They've already put on the garments of the courtroom to dramatise Christian's trial scene. Now they have been antagonised by a persecutor and are about to find out what it is like to experience isolation.
Christian finds himself constantly in isolation and is always looking for companionship. But despite whatever friends one may have, everything eventually boils down to oneself.
I am confronted with death, and I am completely alone. Unlike Christian, I don't gain any inspiration from God, or in a belief of some afterlife. But I won't become hysterical. I'll use some form of escapism, push death from me, and think of the little invitations of life, valleys, walks, friends, songs, and poetry. I cannot imagine death. I have no conception of it, or a celestial city. Christian, faithful, and hopeful see death as glory. This paradise is an assumption. What if it is a trial for worse hardship after death? These are my feelings. Yet I admire and know a man who sincerely believes in his God.
This technique of lateral thinking, approaching the problem from an unexpected angle, is central to Dorothy Heathcote's way of working. Putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. Another of Dorothy Heathcote's techniques is to teach in role. Sometimes the role is taken by a second teacher. Dorothy has endowed this class with the status of young doctors. Dr. Lister, the eminent Victorian surgeon, questions them about the changes in medicine since his discoveries.
Leave it on. But I wonder if he realises why we take our coats off.
Well, these in case you spill anything, so you won't ruin your own clothes, and you wear a jacket like this.
Really? Oh, so I can understand that, but I usually just have one coat for operating, and then it doesn't matter if it gets stuff spilled on it. I just wear it.
To have dust on, and these are sterilised. These.
Sterilised?
Yeah.
What does that mean? I'm not quite sure of these modern words.
Later, Dr. Lister awards certificates to the young doctors.
And then went on.
Dorothy Heathcote believes that children should be valued for the work they undertake.
Shook his hand.
Let it be known that Wendy Carroll has successfully passed the History of Medicine examination. Will Wendy Carroll come forward, please? Congratulations, Dr. Carroll.
Congratulations, Dr. Carroll, on passing the exam.
Here, the role-playing second teacher takes the part of Amy Johnson, the flyer, who has crash-landed her aeroplane in a lady's rose garden. The lesson diagnoses what children already know, but don't know that they know.
It'll be a long way.
It will. It looks as if she's ready for the cold as well. Do you always wear those?
I always travel with these.
I see.
Does this keep you warm?
Keeps my feet and legs warm, yes.
It must be cold up there.
It is.
Is it?
I know because the clouds up there and wind blows.
I didn't know the wind blew up there. I thought the wind only blew down here.
I know something else.
The wind blows all the way up as far as you can see.
I know something else. Dangers of the sky, because if you go higher than the clouds, there's more air and you need oxygen.
You better tell that to Miss Johnson.
You need oxygen when you're higher than
Has she got any oxygen, I wonder? Does anybody know what oxygen looks like?
You need oxygen.
Well, how can you tell when you've got oxygen?
Don't.
Am I breathing oxygen? Everybody breathe and see if you can tell there's some oxygen. Would you say that's oxygenous?
Yes.
Try again.
Yes. Yes.
Well, how can you tell when it isn't oxygen, if there's no oxygen?
Because when you breathe, you can feel air going to your mouth, and if you breathe up high in the clouds and you don't feel any air going to your mouth, you know that you might die quickly, so you need to get oxygen very quickly.
You realise this man is an expert on all the dangers of the world.
Whether she realised it or not, Dorothy was mining gold. By temporarily becoming experts in a drama, children revealed hidden depths of knowledge. Teachers could even learn from children. Later, she called this technique mantle of the expert. The idea came to Dorothy one day, working with primary school children on a nativity play. 3 awkward lads are being cast as the 3 kings.
There was a table in with very thick legs. And I thought, well, it's a perfect camel, is this, you see. 3 kids could sit on this table and we had this camel. Only it was 3 camels, we faced different ways, and I didn't have a camel, of course. I walked all the way. I was the slave, of course. And it was working with these three kings, where they each had their own kingdom, and they made their wills according to what they felt they owned in the different parts of the world from which they came. And we journeyed to Bethlehem all week. And we had adventures like, I thought, I wonder if how they'll manage if they have to buy water. And I had a job for them. They tried to sell me the gold that they were taking to Jesus to buy some water. And it was looking at it afterwards, I knew something important had happened. Because as the week progressed, our camel became hung about with our lives, our wills and so on. And the lives sort of grew from just being kings. And it was thinking about it later on, I thought, that's really important. They were expert kings. And then it began to dawn on me that people had to have a point of view. So when I reviewed that week, I thought, right, the point of view of innkeeping, the point of view of soldiers who are working for Rome, the point of view of angels, the point of view of kings. And that's when it started to come together.
By 1982, when these Tyneside children were filmed as forestry experts, for a lesson inspired by Dorothy's discovery that England plants fewer trees than any other country in Europe, she was refining her teaching of the mantle of the expert method. When the man from the ministry, one of Dorothy's graduate teachers, came to inspect their woodland, these foresters could teach him a thing or two.
Don't go close. Sir.
Yes.
All the people here are foresters, and they all know what a good forester is. And you must listen very carefully and watch, because they will teach you what they think a good forester is. Forester Kelly, what is a good forester?
A good forester is one who never forgets anything important.
Forester Lynn, what is a good forester?
A good forester is one who learns all the time.
Forester Julie, what is a good forester?
A good forester is one who has eyes everywhere.
Forester Helen, what is a good forester?
A good forester is one who understands feelings.
The BBC television programmes I myself made with Dorothy, a year earlier, 1981, also conferred the mantle of expertise on the children. Here, they were workers in a high-class shoe factory. They were so proud of their craftsmanship and good name that they could not accept the offer of industrial change brought by Dorothy in role as the accountant, because it might spell the end of their hand-built shoes.
I can guarantee you will each have your own job to do. After all, those of you with the best skills at selecting will obviously grade the shoes into grade A, you know, grade B. I don't know what these grades ought to be, so that there would be still this craftsman's eye at work. It would still be, the only difference is you wouldn't be actually hand sewing everything. You seem to be shaking your heads as if you're really against it. Yeah. I really am trying very hard to try to show you that there will have to be some changes. Why? It's very hard for me to explain. I'm just an accountant. One of the most important questions that's been asked in this session was, why does there have to be change? And that came from a child. Now, I reckon it's to the good of all the people in this room, you know, the teacher and the children, to be forced to consider that. Why does there have to be? I mean, poets have sung it for thousands of years.
Now, not everybody approved of this way of working. Despite her worldwide fame today, Dorothy has never been universally accepted into the established world of education. Why?
Well, this is a political question, and it's got to do with power and authority and who owns the interaction, and to control knowledge is to control behaviour. So the people who own the knowledge own the behaviour. And so education is not just about knowledge, it's about social control. And so Dorothy's work is often rejected because of political reasons, because it opens up the whole notion of education for whom, for what purpose.
Because it's dangerous.
Because it, yes. Well, that's right. As Foucault said, then, you know, nothing is innocent, everything is dangerous. And I think that's, of course, doubly applicable to education.
The way in which Dorothy works gives children power. And children make decisions, and children make the lead. Now, this reverses the normal teacher-pupil status, and this is very worrying to teachers. Because as a teacher, you often spend a great deal of your time making your own status secure. And to give the power over to children is a bit too demanding for many teachers.
Somebody like Dorothy who will come in and say, give me your children for 3 days and I'll live with them and I will do dangerous things with them and it will all work and it will all be all right. And they will not become disrespectful. They will become managers of their own lives and they will live with me as comfortable, decent citizens. It is terrifying, I think, to many teachers because it is threatening in 2 ways. One is, if I try that, what might happen, you know? And children, when they are bad, when children get out of hand, I see it with students, the quality of insult that children offer to adults when they really are outrageous is huge and terrifying. And so there's that level. But there's also almost the insult that Dorothy's work offers to the rest of the world, because every time you watch her, you think, how awful I am, you know. What a mess my own teaching is in comparison with what is going on here.
There is a fear in our civilization, and particularly among teachers, as a deep fear of the theatre, a suspicion of things theatrical. It's something to do with one's sense of security about what is real and what is not real, and what is proper and what is improper, because often theatre used to be associated with things that were improper. Now, I think this lingers on even today. And so to move drama into your classroom, you don't know what Pandora's box you are opening.
I've never seen theatre as dangerous, except when everybody takes it deeply seriously. See, actors keep themselves safe because they know they must have a room to go back to, which is their real life. Children need, I believe, when you get to the sort of seriousness I'm talking about, whether you're witches or whatever, doesn't matter, that you have to be kept reminded that there's 2 worlds here. So you'll often hear, especially in my more recent teaching, I mean in Birmingham just last year, with really tiny children, I made a great black bird on the wall, and he was the guardian of the forest. And I kept saying, because when we're in the forest, when I'm in the forest, I always have a word with him, because his eye sees me, because there was a big eye in this bird. But when I'm not in the forest, it's a paper bird. So we can have it paper when we want it paper. And I think that is terribly important. And the more people can do it to themselves, the more healthily they'll live their lives, it seems to me. That they'll know they can identify with other people's lives. And through that, they can educate themselves into much wider human experience. Surely that's what literature, poetry, theatre, art is all about. Widening the capacity for experience.
This garden, these flowers are mine. and my friends who helped me dig, plant the seeds so that the flowers could grow.
Dorothy's gifts have been generously given to the mentally handicapped. It's an area that has frightened many of her MEd students. Here she's working with mentally handicapped children at Trouts Lane School in County Durham. Dorothy uses music, she's an LRAM, and slows time so that all the children's contributions are valued as they experience other worlds from the safety of their own. This drama is about winter and summer, trees and flowers, and a peacock king.
Everybody was in the stable. Down there to Jesus.
And here she's with adults at Earl's House Hospital in Durham, working with some of her MEd students on a drama involving Amal, a crippled boy, his mother, played by Dorothy herself, and his dog Ben. It's the time of the Nativity, and King Herod is seeking the infant Jesus.
Don't anybody give him a biscuit. No. Don't give that dog a biscuit. And don't give my Amal any biscuits. No.
He's all
Do you know this man, Henry?
Yeah.
Do you know this fella?
It's Billy.
No, I don't mean him. I mean him with the black beard.
The boy.
Herod the king. Do you know him?
That's it. That's the king.
Yes, I know he's the king, but do you happen to know him? I want to know what he's done with my boy. Have a word with him, will you?
Hey, come here. I want you.
Somebody wants a word with you.
Come here.
You better kneel down when you talk.
Where's that boy? And that means you see, where's that boy gone?
The boy escaped.
Eh?
The boy escaped.
Why don't you use words everybody else uses? The boy, what did he do?
The boy ran away. I was chasing him. He ran away.
He got locked up.
You'll get locked up for that.
I'm a king.
Can they lock kings up?
I'm not running away.
See, he never runs away. You get locked up if you run away. Can they lock kings up? Do you know? Can they put kings in prison?
I don't think they can.
Does any...
They got to go home where they come from when they're finished.
You've got to go home where you come from when you're finished. And I want my boy home where he come from when you're finished.
I have not finished.
Do you know whether they can lock kings up? Does anybody know if you can lock kings up?
Yeah, lock him in there.
In the dungeon. I locked him in a person.
No, in the prison.
You get locked in prison for taking my lad away.
You don't go and meet Dorothy and then come away and try to copy her. You go away and grow and develop in your own way. And she's very good at making you work with rigor, and she's very good at making you look at yourself, sometimes painfully, and then very good at making sure that you go and do what you really want to do. In my case, I wanted to work in psychiatric hospitals, and I was too scared to at the time. After I'd spent my time on my knees in Earl's house working with a patient called Harriet, I realized what rigor was, I realized what hard work was, and she said, well, just get back there and get on with it, and that's what I did.
I suppose what did change me most of all was working with the mentally handicapped people. That was really the part that I found absolutely incredible, because I went in there and I had no idea, I was a bit frightened, and I had no idea what they would be like. And suddenly I realised that they had things to offer me. They had no prejudice in how they worked. They had such a fresh, trusting way with them. And it's this knowledge that if only we could be like that. We can't be because we're not innocent like that. But it was quite a shock, really, to be working at such a raw level with people who had things to offer me. And then at the other end of the scale, they obviously found things so difficult that you had to discover patience, levels of patience in yourself that you didn't realise you had.
Later in her career, Dorothy Heathcote began to apply her ideas to the world of industry, helping managers to see their work from a different point of view, putting themselves in someone else's shoes. Norman Morrison, head of personnel at Volkswagen Cars in the UK, had first seen Dorothy on television in My Teacher programmes. If she could make the world of industrial change so convincing to 10-year-olds, thought Norman, what could she do with real managers in the real world of industry?
Norman knows the only thing I know about is this business of luring, protecting and causing people to be motivated to shift until they didn't realise how far they came in a few hours.
In 1991, she went to Germany as the guest of Volkswagen Audi to teach on a training course for Volkswagen middle managers. It was mantle of the expert again. As consultants, the delegates were to advise an old-fashioned firm of tarpaulin manufacturers how to bring their firm up to date. Dorothy hoped to catch the men off guard, to help them make more imaginative decisions in a world which was only a thin screen away from the real world of Volkswagen Audi.
And then, of course, you also took on board how could we help them see this? So because you took the trouble to go back with the empathy bit, you then could get down to the practicalities. Because by slipping into their skins, you've got a greater sense of what will affect change. Not effect it, affect them to change.
It would be wrong to suggest that Dorothy worked her magic immediately on these men. But by the end of the course, some were able to pin down yet another piece of Dorothy.
I think the most important thing is that whatever industry that you work in, the actual job function or the product that you sell actually becomes irrelevant. Dorothy's work is very, very special when we look at how you interact with people, how you need to be seen or how you want to communicate. I think she needs to know very little really about industry and how it works, because at the end of the day everybody's an individual and everybody's got very, very special qualities that are in there, and the thing that Dorothy can do is bring all those qualities out and let you know about the good things that you've got and how to use them, the things that are good about you, that you don't know are good about you, that you can bring out, and that you can that really just be yourself and be happy with yourself as well. You know, don't look for too many things that are going to complicate your life.
We are actually needing a new paradigm. And I don't think our educational system at management level anyway is providing that. And I think the great thing about Dorothy's work, if you study things like transaction analysis, neuro-linguistic programming, Gestalt, you'll find elements of all that in Dorothy's work. I don't think she's consciously read any of that work, but they're there. And I think she puts them together in a new paradigm, which I think if we could somehow decipher more her language and make it more acceptable, I think really would be a way forward in industry.
Languages might suit you better, like Coleman's mustard, crystallised for me because I can unpack Little Shop. It's the way I think.
She's got exceptional qualities, and mainly interpersonal skills, which are just extraordinary, and a great way of simplifying things.
In the summer of 1993, an international conference took place at Lancaster University. Aficionados came from all over the world to celebrate Dorothy Heathcote's work and influence. East mixed with West, North with South, as more than 170 teachers from America, Japan, Sweden, Australia and many other countries came together in an abundance of seminars, workshops and lectures, organised by Sandra Heston and held at Lancaster's Department of Theatre Studies.
Right, I'm going to give you a drum roll. I want you to strengthen the image.
I am trying to do a bird. I didn't make some semblance of what I'm
How do we do it? I want to do a hawk's wing.
I want to do a hawk's talon.
If you've finished, begin to tell someone.
So many of them wanted to take sessions on Dorothy that there were sometimes 9 different workshops going on simultaneously.
And she told me then, she said, when you're planning one of your lessons, think of where the beginning should be, you know, and then take 5 steps back. And that is the greatest thing I've ever heard from anybody, because it revealed oceans to me about how to start by being with children, how to be able, because you're with children, to travel with them at their pace. And part of our job today and in this conference at large is to begin to say, how do we go out afresh into this new world where things have been broken and shattered and damaged almost irrevocably? How do we go out with a simple, clear message of saying, this is the first ingredient. I'll tell you about all the rest later.
It was hard not to accept that pieces of Dorothy already are distributed all over the world.
Well, I met her in 1970 at Northwestern, and I was stunned and overwhelmed. I thought what I was doing, creative drama, seemed like nothing, because this woman was able to get at the meanings of life so quickly with children. I studied again with her in 74, and in 83, I did a theology degree on her intuitive strategies of creativity and applied them to the area of preaching the scriptures. And I now am teaching in the Archdiocese of Chicago, the deacons of the Archdiocese and some seminarians and laity preaching using the intuitive strategies. And I've started in the last 3 years a Center of Spirituality and the Arts, in which I go into role, one of her strategies, and into retreat situations with laity, with men and women who are interested in pursuing their life with more quality.
She has this enormous power for global thinking. She once said to me, I don't have to travel physically in order to travel in my mind. I have never met anybody who is able to identify on a global continuum of thinking the way she can. If you come from Timbuktu and you tell her what your problem is, she will immediately relate to your problem and help you to solve it through your needs, but by using her ideas. And this is something she can do instantly.
Theatre studies students at Lancaster performed a drama especially for the occasion, inspired by Dorothy's life and early work as a weaver. It was staged with special needs adults and was called Weaving Dreams.
hunger as any man knows. I've got none to eat and I'm poor of my clothes. My clothes have no buttons and stockings have none. You'd hardly give me tuppence for all I've got on.
Those delegates who'd studied with her at Newcastle University were not surprised to find they had to get up early for one of Dorothy's 7 a.m. tutorials in the theatre bar.
The Lady and the Unicorn. The unicorn weeps. You know the tapestry, the unicorn tapestry. The unicorn weeps if the lady puts the chain on, but the lady weeps if the unicorn is free. Now, I think that I could go on dealing with that forever.
I've always felt that you and Peter Brook should sit down and have a long
Yes,
talk.
and I wouldn't let him have his empty space. It's full of waiting. So she comes back with a quotation from Beowulf, which I've actually used in one of the
tapes.
The
Yes.
tapes. Well, now, that exercise shifted Ali Cooper fantastically, because she knew she'd to read it 6 ways, very slowly.
I feel if I were to die with the little bit I got from Dorothy, it's only going to feed the worms, and that's the end. Whereas if I try to share, perhaps 2 will pick it up. It has not only changed my teaching, it has changed my whole attitude and perspective to life in general. That when I meet a problem, when I meet a new situation, I am not confused, I'm not shaken. Like I was saying that Dorothy's cause gave me the strength to face what I don't know confidently.
The conference was also the occasion to open an official archive on Dorothy's life and work, which will remain in the Department of Theatre Studies at Lancaster University. These pieces of Dorothy represent 8 years' work on the part of Sandra Heston, who's now studying for a PhD on Dorothy's work.
Well, it's such a mixture of so many bits and pieces. As you can see, I've enveloped hundreds, or it seems like thousands, of maps, diagrams, rough lecture notes, type lecture notes, magazines, dissertations. Some of them are Dorothy's. So they're Dorothy's rough notes, or they're Dorothy's type notes, or they're Dorothy's teaching material. But a lot of them are from her students, that her students would bring in, this is an article, what do you think about it? And Dorothy would get it all duplicated for everybody. Or this is this is part of my thesis, and I'll copy it for you to keep. So it's such bits and pieces, really. It's incredible, and it's been very difficult to actually classify because of that, because very little in this archive was dated. Some of it wasn't even named. So when I came to do it, that was an enormous problem for me, because had I done it in the orthodox way, where I dated it and put the author in and put all the publishing in and all that sort of thing, it would literally have taken me years and years and years and years. And it didn't represent how Dorothy works. She doesn't work like that. If you ask her a date of something, she wouldn't be able to necessarily tell you when she went to a country at a certain date or when that was. What matters is the information for what it's being used for in context at that moment. It almost takes on a life out of context. And I wanted to reflect that in a way by how I did the archive. And I suppose more orthodox archivists would shudder at that. We have a dream about this archive. And the dream is, and it really comes about from John Carroll, who said to me, I'd love a physical archive, but it isn't any use to me in Australia. I want to press a button and I want to get the lot on computer. So the dream is that from this very, very basic, simple word keywording, we will go on to be able to put those documents on computer. We will then provide different levels of researchers. So we'll have a researcher who really is just wants a little bit. He doesn't want to do any really serious research. So he can just key in a symbol or something like that and get a few documents on that and browse through them quickly. Then we can get a second level of somebody who wants a bit more serious research and wants to have a little bit more. So we can have edited videos, we can have edited pieces of document with maybe more in-depth keywords. And then we can have the really serious researcher who wants to have the lot. The other dream is that we can make it interactive and we can actually get different types of multimedia sort of interacting with each other. And we thought of actually incorporating the use of artificial intelligence in this. So you don't, and I'm hopeless with computers, so I probably got this all wrong. You don't sort of put A and B in and get A and B back. You put A and B in and get C back. And that would really show that the way the interactive video works is based on those same very simple, truly interactive methods that Dorothy uses with children, where they have some say on material. Teacher doesn't just go in and say, this is the material, you take it, you give it me back, you regurgitate it. There are times for genuine interaction.
This only to whet your appetite.
There are videotapes of Dorothy all over the world, mainly shot by teachers working with her in the classroom. Hundreds of hours of tape in all. Many were handed over at the Lancaster Conference to be preserved for posterity in the new Dorothy Heathcote archive. There's a separate video archive at the University of Central England in Birmingham. And in the early 1990s, Dorothy found time to make some new videos here at Newcastle University. These 4 new series, 40 hours of video in all, sum up the theories she's refined over the years and deal with curriculum matters, role work, and her recent theory of rolling role, involving the whole school in coordinated drama. Dorothy still lives with her husband Raymond in Heworth on Tyneside. Their daughter Marianne is a teacher in Nottinghamshire. But the Heathcotes have also bought a house back in Steeton, where Dorothy likes to catch up with the gossip she enjoyed as a child.
Tell you what I can't remember. You know that row of houses along the back of the bobbin mill, and I can't remember what it was called.
I can.
And it was... Say that again.
Colin Row.
Colin Row, that's it. It'd be the club that made it. That doesn't make it Colin Row.
Yeah, I bet your grandma went to club.
I'll bet he did. You don't better yourself just because you go and work in a university, as far as I'm concerned. The privilege to me was I was in a situation where I could use the talent I had. Probably if I'd stayed in the mill, I'd have become a right bossy clogs. Well, more of a bossy clogs. Because I'd have had less to boss, if you know what I mean, so I'd have bossed it harder. But I really do not believe that you've done better because you do paperwork. I really am angry about that kind of notion. I mean, under those shelves there's an old rug frame that Raymond bought for £1 for me. And he's bought me a rug frame because I grew up making rugs. And my last rug that I made with my mother wore out about 5 years ago. And I've got the clippings all cut up to make a rug. But it's nothing to do with just sentiment. It's just things have to be used up. You know, it's all got to be used up. And in a sort of muddled way, I feel, well, I was doing no more good when I worked in the university. The privilege was all mine to work in the university. And it's nothing to do with things like success and travelling the world or anything like that. It really isn't. But you realise my generation is the last generation, probably, that could see men actually doing work in open doorways. You know? I mean, I could pass a blacksmith shop, but craftsmen making hay rakes and things, I could still see that. And it's bound to have made an impression. That it's why I say to children, you know, that you better remember there's a tree in that table. And that, to me, is, until people understand this, they will never deal with conservation if they can't see through the object to its origins, that you can't see that the lettuce on your plate, you know, was once a seed. I just don't see how you can avoid, how you could conserve till you can get that sort of thing. And it isn't sentimentality, it's important living, really, with the environment you've got.
After such a full life, I wondered how Dorothy would like to die.
I'd like to die with good health in my mind. I'd like to know I was heading, you know, for wherever you go. I would like that. And I just would like a total absence of clutter, if possible sitting up in my reading chair with a book half finished. And I would like to think I could just creep into the garden. As I say, I've got a special place there that while it was being built, I thought that would just suit me, because I rather fancy being curled up, you know, like the bog people.
But you'd be quite happy in the end, just curled up forever in the garden, then?
Oh, yes. Well, I don't know what happens to you after. I mean, that seems to me the next adventure, really. Part of me says, don't be daft, Dorothy, nothing happens to you after, but I would like it to. Let's put it that way, wouldn't it be nice? And one of the things I'd like it to do is to be able to write, God, there's certain places I want to see. I want to see the Battle of Hastings. There's a lot of things I would like to see. And that they'd all be sociological events. Interesting, it's the Battle of Hastings. And the only reason I want to see the Battle of Hastings is there's a woman called Breuer, I think that's how you say her name, and she wrote a book called The 14th of August or something. And Dame Edith Sitwell says, occasionally a writer writes as if they were there. And when I read that book, I thought, she's been there. And I'd like to be just where she was when she wrote the 14th of August. 14th of October, that's right. So that would be the next stage, as far as I'm concerned. Mm-hmm.
I hope we get the opportunity.
Oh, well, I hope you do, and if we meet, we'll say, which videos are you making at the moment? Doing the Battle of Hastings. I saw a lovely thing last week, I'll say. Come and video it.